What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Duran Duran, and we're going to listen to another alternative mix, in this case an extended mix from the Strange Behaviour release, 1999. Thank you, of course, to Phil for providing so much Duran Duran and much, much else, but recently adding the Strange Behaviour compilation remix album to the folders so that I can go through some of these versions. Admittedly, a few tracks in here I have reacted to already. I have a double disc special edition of Rio in my CD collection, and so some of the night versions I have already reacted to, but I have not reacted to the extended mix of New Moon on Monday. And I was particularly keen to do this reaction because, as people might know, I posted a vlog of me going to a Dodger game with my older sister a couple days ago, and on the way up to that sporting event, we listened to a throwback version of a still current radio station, but as I've talked about before, K-Rock here in Southern California in the 80s has this sort of legendary status because they were playing a lot of UK and European synth groups at a time when you didn't find a lot of that on US radio. And so for my older sister especially, who was a teen at the time, and even for me, who, because I was listening to music that was maybe meant for an older generation, I have a very nostalgic view or memory of hearing K-Rock play groups like Duran Duran, like Depeche Mode in the early 80s. And so when we were going up to the game, we heard the normal version of New Moon on Monday, and that just, again, made me very nostalgic, even though that was a song that, when I began doing the Duran Duran deep dive, I hadn't recalled by name. I do believe in my initial reaction to the album version of the tune, it was like, oh wait, I actually do know this song, and it, maybe gave me some of those nostalgic vibes. But now it has become one of my very favorites, and I enjoyed reacting to the music video, which I now understand, thank you to Izzy, has a few different versions, including one that was even longer, sort of like more cinematic. But yes, looking forward to hearing an extended and longer version of this track in audio form. So yes, from the Strange Behaviour remix compilation from 1999, this is Duran Duran's New Moon on Monday extended version. I like that opening chorus with the very stripped down intro. shimmering keyboard line. New Duran is something else, aren't they? New Duran? Early Duran is what I meant to say. The new moon on Monday messed up my brain there. But yes, like, it's the track that I know and love, but admittedly, it really lets it breathe. And almost like literally, there was a point before it kind of kicked into the full album version configuration of the track, where it really felt like the track was respirating. Sort of, you could hear the wind or the what's the right word? Like inertia of the track going back and forth. But I do like the way it's sort of pieced together, and the way it takes its time and has a gradual construction, I think really allows for a focusing on the different elements. In particular, as I said, the opening really puts the spotlight on Simon's vocals, and because it's the chorus but without the full sonic atmosphere of the chorus, it almost makes those vocals and that vocal melody hit a bit differently. Hello, Luca. I'm glad you're doing that. But yes, so then we have the bass really stands out in the early sections, and not that you don't notice it or feel its funkiness in the proper album track, but because it's a bit more in isolation in the first couple minutes of this extended version, it stood out more than those like longer melodic keyboard runs, like, and even, you know, sort of pad keyboard chords. Those stood out a bit more. The xylophone style melodic keyboard runs, those hit very notably. And so then when you finally get the more full articulation of the like album arrangement of the tune, it seems, and because you've been waiting for it more, it's perhaps even more cathartic, because it then becomes the tune that is perhaps a bit more focused and tight in the like album or single version of the track, which I know those aren't actually identical. But yes, ultimately I like the way it builds itself. I like the way it progresses and allows you to hear some more of the parts. And I like, especially when you get to the end, the way it's layered with Simon's vocals. You're hearing multiple vocal runs from him layered over each other. And there's that hiccup rhythm where it seems to not skip a beat, but it's like the snare hits earlier than you expect. I enjoy the percussive and rhythmic dynamic nature of the final phase of the tune too. So yeah, it's a great tune, it's a classic tune, it's an iconic tune, and I enjoyed the way it felt stretched out in a manner that allowed my brain to hear the different parts more for their individual character, but still let me hear it as it all comes together in the, you know, sort of central section of this extended version, and, you know, as it relates to the album version of the track. Bottom line, a great tune from a great band during an especially dynamic early era in their history. Do let me know what you think of this. Once again, big shout out to Phil for sharing all the Duran material, and I will see you next time. Peace.